The kidnapping of 200 schoolgirls in Nigeria by Boko Haram is a despicable act conducted by a terrorist group that seeks to impose Sharia law across the entire region. And of course it prompted a global backlash on Twitter under the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls, a campaign that was pushed by Michelle Obama. But the truth about Boko Haram is the fact that the Obama administration itself has been partly responsible for both protecting and arming this despicable terrorist group. Last year, the Bipartisan Policy Center reported that, having been on the wane, Al-Qaeda groups have enjoyed a resurgence and a quote revival thanks to gaining a foothold in Syria and Libya. The US supported rebel opposition in Libya, which was responsible for the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi, was largely comprised of Al-Qaeda terrorists under the banner of the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group. And given that the two groups share the same jihadist ideology and that they're both located in Africa, the LIFG and Boko Haram are close allies, which is why after the overthrow of Gaddafi, which of course was celebrated by Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration, many of the unsecured weapons in Libya went straight into the hands of Boko Haram terrorists. So given that it was the Obama administration policy to aid the resurgence of Al-Qaeda in Africa so that those same terrorists that helped them overthrow Gaddafi would later be funneled to Syria in an effort to overthrow Assad, is it any surprise that Hillary Clinton's State Department refused to brand Boko Haram as terrorists for over 2 years, given that they were closely allied with and indeed receiving weapons from the LIFG in Libya, which the Obama administration protected and aided in the regime change operation directed against Colonel Gaddafi? Hillary Clinton, who has also backed the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls campaign, was also warned about Boko Haram in 2012 by a prominent organisation, the Christian Association of Nigeria, members of which had testified in front of the US Congress, that Boko Haram was responsible for slaughtering hundreds of Christians in cold blood in Nigeria, as well as destroying 700 churches. So Clinton, after the State Department failed to place Boko Haram on the terror list, was warned that the group was slaughtering hundreds of Christians. She ignored the letter, and still the terrorist organisation later responsible for kidnapping these 200 girls was kept off the terror list. So while weapons were flowing out of Benghazi to terrorists in Syria, they were also flowing from the Obama administration supported rebels in Libya directly to Boko Haram. So to avoid the United States being caught shipping weapons directly to a terrorist group, this is one of the primary reasons why the State Department under Hillary Clinton refused to brand Boko Haram as terrorists. As Dr. Nafeez Ahmed also documents, the US, French and British governments have also been responsible for the rise in Africa of Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, AQIM, which again is a terrorist organisation that shares ideology and in fact has gained increasing control over Boko Haram. And the desire to exploit Algeria's lucrative gas and oil resources has led to a policy on behalf of Britain and the United States to turn a blind eye to the fact that the Algerian military junta, which has been responsible for the massacre of hundreds of thousands of civilians, directly controls AQIM, Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, which again is a close ally and in turn controls Boko Haram. So you have both LIFG and AQIM, these two Al-Qaeda groups which control Boko Haram, both basically puppets of the United States and Algeria, and the United States turns a blind eye to Algeria's control of AQIM. So again, because Britain and the US and the EU is seeking to reduce its dependency on energy from places like Russia in light of the recent Ukraine crisis, they're willing to allow their allies, Algeria, this despicable dictatorship, to use these terrorists to terrorize their own internal population in return for access to that lucrative untapped oil and gas. So in summary, number one, the Obama administration was responsible for the resurgence of Al-Qaeda groups in Africa, particularly LIFG and AQIM, who in turn armed and supported Boko Haram. 2. The US State Department refused to place Boko Haram on the terrorist list for 2 years despite overwhelming pressure because of this very policy of arming and supporting Al-Qaeda groups in Africa that of course led to the tragedy at Benghazi. 3. Weapons flowed from Obama-supported Libyan rebels to Boko Haram just as they flowed out of Benghazi to Obama-supported terrorists in Syria. And 4. Obama administration support for the Algerian junta, which controls AQIM, is born out of the US's strategic resource interests in terms of oil and gas in Algeria. So they signed an agreement, and now basically the Obama administration ignores the fact that the Algerian junta controls AQIM, which in turn controls and aids Boko Haram. So forgive me for being a little cynical when it comes to the Obama administration's condemnation of this kidnapping of 200 girls in Nigeria by Boko Haram. Because since the Obama administration's policy was to aid Al-Qaeda's spread and influence throughout Africa, how can we then take seriously the notion that they truly condemn the actions of Boko Haram, this Al-Qaeda group in Africa? This is Paul Joseph Watson reporting for Infowars.com.